But if it was up to me and I only have to choose one of these two shoes, then which way am I going? Well, I'm actually going to go with shoe comparison I've got for you guys today. So we are going to put the ASICS Magic Speed 4 up against the Adidas Boston 13. So I'll go through their similarities, their differences and their key features, and hopefully from that, that'll give you guys a great indication of choosing the right shoe for you. But before we get into it, and if you guys want to support the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And with the specs, so both neutral road running shoes and priced pretty evenly matched there, so $10 difference. So one's a little bit cheaper in the US and the other one's a little bit cheaper in Australia. So a little bit interesting there. Now in the weight, noticeable difference in the weight. You can certainly feel it in the hand, and yes, you can feel it on the foot as well. So obviously the Magic Speed 4 feels a lot more agile, light and airy on the foot. And in the stacks there, big difference in the stack as well, and that is certainly noticeable. You do feel a lot higher off the ground in the Magic Speed 4. And in the upper, so what is noticeable about the two uppers in both shoes is certainly the materials used in the Boston 13 feel a little bit more premium than what they do in the Magic Speed 4. So it feels like a little bit more of a cheaper shoe here. Both use engineered mesh, and the breathability in both shoes is quite good. But I will give the win in the breathability department to the Boston 13. But onto the Magic Speed 4 here. So as I said, engineered mesh, it doesn't feel yet as premium, but still thin. Pretty solid heel counter here at the back. Probably a medium to a minimal amount of padding around the heel collar. A really thin tongue, just a couple of pads on the tongue. This tongue is gusseted, really like that. Very standard lacing system, so reinforced eyelets. Now the laces that they use in the Magic Speed 4, they're quite long, they're stretchy, and they feel a little bit cheap for me. In the lockdown department, pretty good midfoot lockdown here. I don't get any heel slippage in the back. And in the fit, I'm going to say it's probably a little bit long, so a touch long. Good amount of volume in the toe box, and I think the width is just perfect as well. Now in comparison to the Boston 13, as I said, slightly better materials here in the upper. Same solid heel counter though in the Boston 13 as the Magic Speed. You're going to get a little bit more padding around the heel collar here. And I will say that the padding does feel a little bit more premium, a little bit better finished off. Like it feels like much more like a memory foam in the Boston. So another gusseted tongue here in the Boston as well, and you're going to get slightly more padding. Lacing system, so again, standard eyelets on either side, just reinforced, but really thin, these fiddly Adi laces, which I don't really like, but again, they're easily replaced laces in shoes, so I don't really worry too much about that. In the lockdown department, midfoot is okay. It does get a little bit tricky with these laces, but once you work it out, then you do get a good midfoot lockdown, and no heel slippage in this one as well. Again, in the fit, I think this Boston is true to size for me. Width is just right as well, and a good amount of volume in the toe box. When comparing sizes of both shoes, the Magic Speed 4 is slightly longer for me, but I think the volume in the toe box is about the same. And with the outsole, so I do think we've got two of the best performing outsoles on the market here. So ASICS grip in the Magic Speed 4. So for me, it's one of the market leaders. It's excellent in the wet conditions, and you can see here it doesn't really need an aggressive tread pattern. It probably looks very similar to the tread pattern that they use in their race series, so in that Meta Speed series. So it doesn't need to be aggressive, excellent in all conditions. It's quite thick, and durability is excellent as well. I said barely any wear signs on this shoe, but I think I've only got maybe 50-60 kilometers in this shoe, but I've used it primarily just for speed sessions. But yeah, hardly any wear on it whatsoever. But as I said, performance, grip in all conditions is absolutely excellent, and same goes here for the Boston 13. So they use the majority of the rubber on the bottom here is that light traction. Now they've moved away from the Continental rubber, but they've still got a little bit of it under the big toe there. But this light traction, again, it's excellent. So in the grip department, in those wet conditions, it's just really solid. It doesn't falter. But what you can see here, probably a little bit more rubber coverage on the bottom of the Boston in comparison to the Magic Speed, and obviously this one is probably built to be a little bit more durable, a little bit more robust certainly than the Magic Speed 4. So yeah, durability wise, no questions with this outsole rubber, it's really going to last a long time. And again, in the grip department, absolutely excellent. And in the midsole, so with the Magic Speed 4 here, very interesting setup in this shoe. So you will see the big FF Turbo written on the side of the shoe here, but don't be fooled by that, because the majority of foam in this shoe is actually FF Blast Plus. So that's what they use in their daily trainers. So 2 layers of this FF Blast Plus, and then we've got a carbon plate sandwiched between those 2 layers. However, it's not a traditional carbon plate or one you would expect or you will find in a race day shoe. I think this one, it feels like plastic. It must be like a carbon resin plate, because there is a bit of flex in this shoe. You certainly can't do that to a normal carbon plate or it would crack. Now, the FF Turbo in this shoe, we have just got a little insert under the forefoot, like a puck they call it, under the forefoot, and that's where the turbo is in this foam. So not a lot of it, but it's certainly there, and you can feel it once you start picking up the pace in the shoe. Now, geometry wise here, we certainly have a forefoot rocker. It's quite late in the shoe, and it's quite aggressive as well. So you can really feel this rocker kicking in at those faster paces. Now, in the Boston 13, so dual density setup here, however, a little bit more straightforward setup, I think. So their top layer of foam is the brand's premium super foam, so Light Strike Pro. It's actually the different foam, it's not in the new race version of the Pro 4. It's actually, I believe, the same foam that's in the Pro 3. Certainly feels like that anyway. It's nowhere near as soft as what the foam is used in the Pro 4. And then their bottom layer is just their EVA foam. That's just their standard Light Strike foam, and that's just there to give this shoe a little bit of stability and add some durability to the shoe as well. Now, sandwiched between those 2 layers of foam, they've got their Energy Rods 2.0, so full-length energy rods, and again, they're not those carbon rods that you're going to find in the race shoes, because this shoe, again, has also got some flexibility. You definitely don't have this much flex in the race day version. And with the geometry, yes, we do have a forefoot rocker here, but it's earlier than what you're going to find in the Magic Speed 4, and it's certainly not as aggressive. So this rocker is going to kick in at those slower paces, more so than what you're going to find in the Magic Speed 4. And in the ride, well, I do think both these 2 shoes share some similarities with how they feel in the ride. However, they both got a unique sweet spot. They are quite niche, and the sweet spot for me is at different pace ranges in each shoe. So with the Magic Speed 4, so for me to jog in this shoe, it does feel a little bit clunky. The shoe feels a bit stiff. I'm not going to say it's overly firm, because there is a little bit of squish through the heel when you're jogging around. It's just that the shoe is just so straight before this rocker starts, and then when I'm jogging around in the shoe, it is quite loud and a bit slappy, because I'm just not utilizing that rocker. The sweet spot in this shoe, however, is when you start picking up the pace. So I'm going to say from tempo to threshold, in all the way up to those race efforts. When you start getting onto this rocker, this shoe absolutely comes alive. You feel super propulsive toeing off, because you're digging into this super foam, and yeah, you just get a nice amount of pop. It's really responsive, and you feel super fast in this shoe when it is up and going. So really amazing at those really fast paces. Whereas the Boston 13, so for me, this shoe feels firmer overall than the Magic Speed 4. And it certainly feels firmer through the heel as well. So a little bit more harsh through the heel. And again, the Boston 13 for me, at those jogging paces, it feels just a little bit clunky, a little bit stiff, and again, firm through the heel. But then when you pick up the pace a little bit in this shoe, that's when this shoe becomes alive as well. So when, I'm not going to say it really comes alive at that tempo threshold effort. For me, it's at that steady pace. So in between your easy pace and your tempo pace, pretty much the pace that you like, or that I like to do my long runs in. Yeah, that's when this shoe comes alive. So that's when this rocker starts really working for me, and then my forefoot is just really digging into this super foam, this Light Strike Pro at the front, and that's where it feels really good. I do think the Boston 13 does lack that top end speed. It is a little bit heavy, and I think with this gentle rocker, it doesn't feel as propulsive for me, certainly when up against the Magic Speed 4. So overall though, as I said, both shoes pretty clunky to jog around in, both probably firm and a little bit stiff. The Magic Speed 4 for me is the softer shoe through the heel. The Magic Speed 4 is the faster shoe, the more propulsive shoe, especially at the top end paces. But when you just want to lock into that steady pace, the Boston 13 really nails it in that zone. And just wrapping up the comparison between these two shoes, so both pretty evenly matched in the price department. So both those up-tempo workout shoes, both got a little bit of super foam in each shoe, both got some EVA, and both got a carbon plate or a stiffening mechanism in each shoe. So remember, both pretty unique, both have sweet spots, and for me, different areas. If you want a speed shoe, a budget race day option, I think the Magic Speed 4 is the much better option here. But if you want something more to handle those longer training sessions, your long runs, and remember, this one for me shines at that steady pace, and the Boston 13 is probably going to be the best shoe for you. But if it was up to me and I only have to choose one of these two shoes, then which way am I going? Well, I'm actually going to go with the Magic Speed 4. It's just, I appreciate the extra stack. It's a lighter shoe, and I think I just get more use for this shoe. So I do love its ability to handle a really fast workout, and for me, it's just as propulsive as a lot of the super shoes on the market, whereas this one, yeah, it's a little bit more versatile, but certainly when it comes to a long run or some steady pace runs, I'd much rather reach for something else instead of the Boston. But anyway, guys, that's it for me. Any questions you've got regarding these two shoes, just drop it in the comments. Thanks for watching. Make sure you give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.